Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales from Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan Steele and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. So, yeah, it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since we last spoke. I hope you've had a great couple of weeks. For me, let's see. What can I tell you? Well, when I left you last, I had mentioned I was going to do a charity chili cook-off with a Creole chili that sadly did not win, but we raised a lot of money for charity. It was very cool. It was neat to be part of it. I got to eat a bunch of different kinds of chili and participate in something cool that I hadn't done before. So I look forward to next year. It seemed like mine was a little spicier than the average palate wanted, and on top of that, the winners, the first and second place, were actually kind of, I don't mean to be like they were just basic chili, but they were just chili. You know, like it wasn't anything special. Like here's a special secret recipe meat, or this is my grandparents' secret recipe that uses rotini or anything like that. It, they were just basic, everyday ground beef. I think one might have had steak chunks in it, but like just beans, meat, and sauce. Like nothing special, no bells and whistles, and both had those took first and second place. So I will have to remember that for next year, that I can do something fancy, but keep it in the realm of regular chili instead of branching out and frightening the judges, apparently. Let's see what else. Haven't really, like, there wasn't a lot going on in the interim because I had, as this episode talks about, I had a convention to go to, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. But yeah, no, it's been played in some bar trivia, played some video games. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could be like, my life was jam packed and filled with all this craziness. This was not the case. Professionally, I finished up on a very cool Power Rangers book that has yet to be discussed with the public. And submitted the outline for my next Transformers book. Started a short story for some Mutant Chronicle short story fiction, and am waiting to get some edits back on a Shadowrun piece of short story fiction. So yeah, it's been a pretty good all around week when it comes professionally speaking. As far as the personally go, personally the my weight loss journey came kind of crashing to a halt in the last month or so, and I am going to have to after how I'm gonna sneeze. Is it alone? You guys don't want to watch this. All right, no, we're good. The after Halloween, I think when come November 1st, Natalie and I are going to need to crash back onto the low carb situation and get us into back into fighting shape, so to speak. So I was doing really good there for a little while, but then convention season hit, and then bleh. So we'll get back to it. I was feeling real good there for a while, and while I do absolutely love how food tastes and getting to be able to just run the gamut without thinking about it when I'm not dieting like that, I need to get back to it. Is really what it comes down to it. So I'll buckle down, maybe with your guys' help and reassurance. I'll get back to it, and I'll shed these pounds that I put back on. But then, yeah, the biggest event over the last 2 weeks. The reason why I didn't have an episode last week is because I went to the 2022 Gamehole Con up in Madison, Wisconsin, and it was awesome. It was a great show. It really, really has become one of my favorites. I'm wearing the shirt Gamehole 9. So this is they've had 9 Gamehole Cons. Gamehole Con is named for a little like a almost like a man cave style place where some of the very old school D&D gamers used to play, and they called it the Game Hole because it was a little hole in the wall man cave that they would play in, which is still stands to this day in Madison, Wisconsin, and they still play games there from time to time. But the name of the convention the convention gets its name from that place because the main management member Alex Kammer, who kind of started this whole thing. That's where he started playing D&D. That's where it kind of grew up from there. So it's sort of his way of highlighting where it all started for him and his friends, and a very important place in D&D history, apparently. So this particular show is always strange for me because I don't have a client. I don't. So a lot of times when I go to a convention, um, and I can't speak for all freelancers, but I know a lot of times freelancers are hesitant to go to conventions that are far away because it's expensive, between your hotel or your Airbnb and the travel and the food and anything that you might have to spend while you're there. And for some of these places, the actual badge cost, it can be a significant expense for a freelancer to go to one of these shows, especially if they don't end up wrangling up any more work while they're there, and that's several days where they're not working. They're not pushing towards their productivity. So it's a very expensive endeavor. So I have to be very careful which shows I go on my own dime. I'm asked quite often, "Hey, are you going to this convention? Are you going to this convention?" And 9 times out of 10, my answer is it completely depends on my employer. If I have a client, if I have somebody who's paying me to go, or they take care of my hotel room, or if I'm going to be a special guest at a show, I'll ask that show, "Hey, can get me a hotel room? I'll take care of the drive. Don't you worry about that. But as long as because honestly, the most expensive part of a convention, more often than not, unless it's one you have to fly to, is the hotel. Hotels are always pricey, and that can be, depending on the length of the show, that can be $700-800 right there, um, which can be problematic if the show is not willing to take care of that cost, or if I don't have a company that will foot that bill or have me there on their behalf to take that expense. Some of those shows just end up not really being worth it for me because I could spend those days working, generating actual money, or drumming up business or whatever. Whereas if I go to the show and it's on my own dime, it's all, yes, a business write-off, but it's all an expense. It's all money that's coming directly out of our pockets. And that being said, Gamehole Con, totally worth it. I will, if I can get a company to send me or like get them to special guest me a room or something, I'll do it. But I would gladly pay and save and make sure that this happens. This is one of my favorite shows. From the second I drove in on Wednesday, I checked into my Airbnb and I met this lovely lady named Jan and her wonderful little kitty, Clooney. And if you know me, I am an animal freak. I absolutely love animals of all kinds. We have 3 cats, 3 dogs, and a lizard in the house. And getting to this Airbnb and being greeted at the door by this just ancient, blind in one eye, 2 teeth left in its head, half a meow in its voice, cat named Clooney, uh, I I was like, "Oh my God, nice kitty," and she's like, "Yeah, he's 20 years old. Don't let him go upstairs." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Apparently, he potentially can get stuck upstairs because his legs aren't so good at coming back downstairs. And I thought that was cute, but so I got to meet them, and I check in. Jan lets me know, here's the key to your room and the key to the back door and all that stuff, and I'm there for a little while unpacking, and I'm like, all right, well, it's time to go get my badge and everything. So then I get ready to leave, and I don't see any humans, but I am escorted to the back door by Clooney. Give the little guy a pet, and then I'm out the door. Wednesday night at the convention was basically check in, meet some people, shake hands, see who's all going to be there. There's really no events going on, except maybe some like welcoming events. And I ended up at the bar with one of my supervisors from Renegade, Kevin, and we sat and had a couple drinks. We talked shop, we talked work, talked about upcoming manuscripts and things, and some ideas for some stuff in the relative near future. It was all around good. It was a nice, relaxing business meeting between in this case between Essence 20 representatives. It was nice. It was really really nice. And then his local friends were coming around, so he needed to go hook up with them, and I went back to go and catch up with my friends, which we did, and we had just a wonderful good social evening of talking things through and seeing people, and it was just nice. It was nice to not have to worry about in 10 minutes I got to get to an event, or I've got a panel at 9 in the morning, or we just kick back and enjoy ourselves. Thursday started off with a fantastic. I ran a Transformers game. The scenario is called The Winner's Cup, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. The players really got into it. It would have been nice to have one more player because there's four at the table. It would have been nice to have five. Um, but three of them was a father and his two teenage sons, like 14 and 15, and everybody seemed to have a good time. They figured out the Essence 20 system pretty quickly. Oddly enough, no one really ever spends any energon, which is like the big thing that Transformers do, is they can spend energon to bump their dice rolls. They may have forgotten, is also possible. Um, but they got into it. They enjoyed themselves. One of the teenage kids really got into trash talking the Decepticons. Um, but they got through the mission. They did just fine. And at the end, when the father and his kids get up to go do other things, the other member of the other player at the table, a guy named Brad, sat there, and we kind of just chatted back and forth, because I could tell that he knew more about the industry. He was an older, not older gamer like in age, but like he's been gaming a long time. And we were talking back and forth, and he runs a podcast, and he's here to run a few events, and he's going to do some streaming stuff, and it was just really cool. And about halfway through our conversation, he mentions that his wife is a woman by the name of Sarah Babe. Yes, that is actually her name. And I started laughing because Sarah and I made friends at last year's Gamehole Con. We're friends on Facebook now and stuff, and I hadn't seen her yet, and it was just hilarious that again, this kind of show, it's the right atmosphere to meet, greet, and enjoy other people's company. So immediately, we took a selfie and sent it over to Sarah, and was like, "Hey, look who I'm playing with." Like it was very cool. And then the rest of Thursday, I spent just gonna try. I did a little shopping, and I just kind of checked some people. Checked on some people that I hadn't seen in a while. Stuck my head into the filming room to see how everything was going. And then, because as you guys are all well aware, I am a DC fanboy. I drove across Madison, Wisconsin, in the middle of a convention to go get a nearly private screening of Black Adam Thursday afternoon. which I enjoyed it a great deal. I liked the movie a lot. Um, it I will put it on par with like other super flashy character origin stories. Like everybody knows what I feel about Aquaman, and I would put this movie similar to that. Gorgeous, beautiful. Plotline is pretty straightforward. Um, it's not going to win any Oscars except maybe for special effects, but it was a lot of fun. It introduced a lot of new characters and new aspects to the DCU, to the DCEU, and on top of that, um, it really did kind of ring in this new concept of the new management over Warner Brothers Discovery, that they're going to be willing to do more things that have connective tissues and attachment points to the rest of the DCEU, instead of what Hamada and his management team were trying to lean towards, of more Elseworlds, more standalone movies, more nothing's connected. So I mean, it was good. I had a really really good time. And when it was done, I got back in my car and I kind of let it sink in. This is really cool. This is what happened. I'll definitely be seeing it again when I get an opportunity to. But right now, the first time is enough, and I'm very happy that I did. Friday at the show was hectic, hectic to say the least. Uh, the day started off with a Power Rangers game. Uh, that was it a Power Rangers game? Yeah, I think it started off with a Power Rangers game. Um, and it was a full table full of folks, and they had a blast. They did a great job. They got into character. They did some talking back and forth. In fact, one of the members of that team. So in that particular campaign session called Tenga Temple, I've created a new Power Rangers team called the Strato Rangers, and they're all based off of like flying creatures, and they are sort of space based. And one of the players, uh, who was playing our Syrian Blue Ranger, uh, she came up with a catchphrase when they morphed and went to go do action time. It's morphin' time, and she goes to the stratosphere, and I was like, oh my god, you came up with a catchphrase. She's like, well, yeah, it makes sense. They all have one. And so yeah, it was just really good. They got into the game. I didn't have to, for time's sake, I didn't have to really cut anything. They figured things out. In fact, they actually figured out a couple of the obstacles in ways that I won't say made the obstacle, useless, but it was definitely one of those things where I wasn't thinking when they asked for this particular piece of equipment. I wasn't thinking about it, so I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, sure, you can get that. Roll these dice to see if you can requisition it. Oh, but you did, cool. And then when we got into the challenges, where there's some puzzles and things, this piece of equipment was priceless for them. But again, I'm not going to take that away from them. I'm not going to be like, oh, you outsmarted me. So they got through that part. They got to the battle at the end, and they were victorious. It was awesome. It was really cool. It was a really good time. They and at least one of the people at the table said, "Hey, over in the dealer hall, are they selling this game? Do they have this book at any of the any of the locations?" And I was pretty sure that the big Noble Knight booth had them. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they were able to go get copies for themselves. Um, After that, we had that was when I was supposed to go play old school D&D with Stefan Picornoy, um, Picorni, who is the manager, CEO, head of Dwarven Forge. Stefan is a great guy. I love him to death. We have become closer in the last couple of years, and I really, really wanted to play D&D with him. So I actually bought a ticket for one of his D&D games, and I went to go to the hotel room where he had everything set up and everything for his big, Dwarven Forge, campaign setting that he's got built, because he always does. And I get there and I get off the elevator and I look down at the end of the room, and there is at least 15 or 20 people jam packed shoulder to shoulder in this little hotel room kitchenette. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I kind of lean in, and sure enough, it is the right room. Stefan's down at one end. He's got a table with all of his cool terrain and stuff. And there's probably 7 or 8 people sitting at the table. And then there's just 20 some odd people packed into the end. And Anne, Stefan's partner, is trying to organize this stuff. And I was like, you know what? It is way too many people in way too small of a space. And it's going to be loud in there. Nah. And so I just kind of waved at Anne, waved at Stefan, and then I was like, I'm out. And so I took off. And I'm really glad that I did, because after I grabbed a quick lunch, I popped upstairs to the streaming area to get ready for my guest appearance as Hollywood, my elf street samurai character from way back that actually is one of the stars of he's right here, that's Hollywood, boop, of Control Issues, one of my Shadowrun novels. So we got to do a fun Shadowrun adventure where I was playing a canon character. Tommy, one of the members of Six Sides of Gaming, was playing a canon character named Chronologic. It was very cool. It was very Devin was playing a super anarchist hacker named Leroy, spelled with 2 3s and a 0. Of course it is. And we just had a really good time. It was neat. In fact, I'm getting into now the reason why Gamehole was kind of special for me this time around is I absolutely love I love running games. I love being a dungeon master, a game master, a storyteller. I love that. But I when I get an opportunity to be a player, especially if I can be a player that is in a temporary, not a temporary role, but like a condensed role, a focused role where you're really focused on role playing. And yeah, you might get into some fights and stuff, but generally it's about interacting with the other players, and almost like a LARP that has dice. Like when I get to do that kind of sort of thing, which is really what some of these streaming events are. I beam. I don't know whether or not I'm necessarily any good at it, but I love it. It feels good. It feels right. I love the interaction. I love having an audience. Go figure, doing this thing. But it was a lot of fun, and it was neat to get back into Hollywood's boots, so to speak. And this whole time, that whole time in the back of my head while we're doing this little adventure, is I kept thinking about the greater history of what Hollywood has done, whether it was on the pages of Control Issues or in early Shadowrun role-playing games where I got to play him as someone who was working for the Draco Foundation. Always kind of waiting for a moment during the adventure where some kind of tidbit or something could pop out. It didn't really happen in this case, but I even if just one person watches that stream, one Shadowrun fan watches that stream and goes, "Oh, this Hollywood guy, I kind of dig him. I want to see more." And they go out and they buy Control Issues, which, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put the Amazon link up to buy the book in the description for this video. So that way, in case you want to see Hollywood narratively before you see me play him in a Six Sides of Gaming stream, which I will put the link up to all of the Gamehole streaming events, or at least the hub, the Six Sides of Gaming Twitch hub for you to watch on video on demand, which you should. But so I ran that Shadowrun game, I was a Shadowrunner in that game, and we had a blast. It was a good time, lots of laughs. I was able to coin a phrase that will stick with me as something that Hollywood has said. So like if I ever get a chance to write more about Hollywood or ever play him again, this line will always stick in my head, and it will be that there are not a lot there really aren't very many firsts left in this life, and that came from you know what, I'm not going to spoil it in case you go watch the Twitch, but something happened that I would have never guessed would happen in a million years, and it happened specifically to Hollywood, and he just kind of took it as, you know what, I guess this is happening. There aren't that many firsts left in my life. It was good. It was really cool. But that's not where the story ends. So we wrapped up the Shadowrun game. You know, I'm taking my microphone off, taking off my little elf ears and stuff, getting everything, you know, put away. And Tommy, the kind of head of filming and stuff, there at the film site itself, was getting ready to gear up for a D&D game in his special world of called Legacy of Mana. And while he's getting things ready, he was like, "Hey, you should swing back by later, and we'll talk about maybe doing some more filming in the future." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I go, I leave, go have dinner, I come back, and I watch a bunch of people play from the perspective of the audience, and that was just, it was fun to be there as the live audience participation. But I had nothing better to do on that Friday night, so I just sat there and watched them play and enjoyed them and kind of cheered them on because I had friends on the panel or friends in the group, so I was able to kind of cheer them on a little bit and get them know that people are watching and enjoying what they're doing, and then their game ends. And Tommy goes, "All right, we got about 15 minutes before the Halloween special, the Hollywood themed special D&D game gets up and running." And Tommy looks over at me and goes, "Hey, do you want to jump in on this one?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not prepared. I don't have a character. I don't have any like costumey weirdness. For a lot of times, streaming people get on at least little bits of costume." And I was like, I don't know. And my former supervisor from Renegade, Elisa Teague, who is also one of the best people in the entire human race, looked at me and she's like, "Well, I'm going to be in that stream." And this was an opportunity for me to actually get to play alongside Elisa. And I have not done that ever. And I've been trying to do that since I've known her. And so I was like, "Yep, absolutely, it's going to happen. Let's do this." And so I jumped in on this D&D, this Halloween themed D&D session from Legacy of Mana, and it was fantastic. It was so much fun. I got to play. I didn't have a character, so they were like, "Well, here we go." They handed me a character that was from Legacy of Mana, that is a dreadnought barbarian, basically a barbarian who holds the line, kind of thing, from the Ursine race, which are kind of big anthropomorphic bears. And I looked at my sheet, and I looked at the notes that I had on there, and I decided that I was going to play this character as kind of a simpleton, not like absolutely brain dead, but definitely like big words are confusing, or if there's a big word that maybe sounds like two words, I'm going to probably separate them and find a way to make those come together. Definitely someone who's like, "Well, yeah, I hit stuff and I hit stuff good, but that's not all I'm good for, right?" And my name was Nuggle Honeysbane of the Northern Honeysbane. It's a family name, and we had a great time. We had a blast. And at the end of the adventure, oddly enough, because I had done something kind of stupid during the adventure, I had lost one of my paws, like at the elbow. I had lost my arm, and curtain closes, game's over. We had a blast. It was so much fun, but that was it's just like one of those, all right, time to go to bed. It's really late. But again, it was a great time. And so the following day, I run a couple of sessions. I run a great Power Ranger session again. Um, Oddly enough, so all right. I'm gonna mention one thing while I'm talking is, and I will bring this up to the Gamehole guys too when I do my like game master report. Is that when you submit an event to the Gamehole system, so the electronic system, when you submit an event, you put in an age, an age category of, please at this table 13 or more, 13 or older, 15 or older, 18 or older, adults only. How much experience do you need? Some experience. You just need to have role played. Do you need to know this game? You put in a bunch of parameters, and for the most part, generally that stuff works. In this case, I did get a very nice woman, a woman who brought her two children, and her two children were like 8 and 9, like very young, and we're also obviously dealing with some extreme overstimulation. They needed oftentimes they needed to be reminded to do things, to pay attention, to it was rough. But we were able to get through it. We had a good time. I skipped all the hard and all the really, really dark stuff. But we had a good time. The other two players, they were older players, like older people that kind of went with the flow. I felt bad for one of the two older players because he was a VIG, is a very important gamer that he bought the expensive cool badge. He's got particular, and he chose to come play this game, and then he gets there, and we're kind of doing 70% of the actual rules because we don't want to get too deep because we got two kids. I again, we had a good time. While I focus, we had a really good time, but it doesn't change the fact that there needs to be some kind of checks and balances or recompense for when that mom goes to buy her tickets, and they say, who are these for? And they say, oh, these other two are for my kids. That they need to say how old are those kids because this event is set for 13 and above. We made it work and we had a good time because it needed to be how that went down. But I wish that I didn't have to try and adjust for those two children, if that makes any sense. As soon as that was over, I went and had some lunch, and I came back, and then I had my last event that I ran, which was another Transformers event, which sadly enough, they sold a bunch of tickets for, but only 2 people showed up. I don't know if it was just a weird time slot, something else must have come up or whatever. And so while that was not enough, that was not enough players to really run through the event as written. The 2 players were amenable to having me basically narrate how the scenario would go down all the way up to the last fight, and then they would take on the last fight. And that's really how it went down. We just told a story, we talked about the system, got them to figure out how it was going to work, and then we threw them into that kind of final combat, in which I actually defeated them, defeated the characters. My dice were just a little bit better than theirs, and in all honesty, one of the characters that the guy chose was a support character, so without having extra people to support and augment, he didn't really have all of the benefits that he could have been having because he only had another player, and that other player was already big and beefy and tough, so it wasn't going to be that much of a help. But they had a good time, and in fact, one of the guys, when the guy who kind of started the conversation, or when he sat down at the table, he started off sounding a little grumpy about everything. Well, I don't really like G.I. Joe, but Transformers is where it's at. I watched Transformers since the very beginning, and I don't know about any of this new comic books and stuff. So there may have been some disgruntledness, but it went away really fast. He had a good time, and at the end, he actually had asked if the book was available, and so I don't know if he was going to order it from Renegade or if he went and picked it up in the shop or whatever. But he had a good time. He had enough of a good time that he wanted to get a copy for him and his friends. So that's a plus as far as I'm concerned. And then when that was done, because it ended a little early, I bopped over to see how my friends were doing over in the streaming room. Watched a little bit of their shows. Again, it's just so much fun. I enjoy seeing my friends play and enjoying and getting to make eye contact with them from the audience area, and give them the mental thumbs up if they know they're doing a good job, because I know I would like to see the same thing if I was up there. And while I was there, when they wrapped up on a show, sure enough, Tommy was like, "Hey, you want to play? Nuggle again?" And so, good old Nuggle Honeysbane comes back to the plate, goes to get into the next adventure. And when I had asked him, I was like, "So what's up?" When last we met Nuggle, I had no arm, so they built me a glow in the dark biomechanical golem arm. So now I'm a barbarian named Nuggle Honeysbane. But where this streaming adventure went weird, what I was unaware of when I said, "Yeah, I'm in," is that, so one of the things that they do with Six Sides of Gaming and with Legacy Mana specifically is on Thursday night, the Thursday night or Wednesday night or Thursday morning, whatever, one of the more steady channel slots, they have a audience participation Twitch stream where the audience basically gets to vote through like their dollars or through their pluses and minuses or whatever on Twitch. They get to vote on a pile of different elements that are going to be made into a single adventure, and then that adventure gets played later in the show. Well, I ended up getting roped into the playing of this random made up adventure, and to say that it was comical would be so unbelievably undercutting what really happened. It was so funny and so much fun. It was side splitting, tears down my face. I snorted into the microphone at least once. Absolutely insane, and also with some insane moments from us as players. It was fantastic. It was a ton of fun. And then when that stream wrapped up, they were getting ready to go and do a vampire stream. I was almost lassoed into doing that one too, but I didn't have anything. I didn't have my vampire books, my dice. I had nothing to prep for playing a quick like 3-hour vampire session. Maybe next time I'll know. Next time I'll know to bring a handful of characters from the different games that I know that are going to get streamed, just in case. I'll definitely bring Nuggle. But it was fun to watch for a little bit. And then I went and had dinner and came back, and that was a nice. That night ended perfectly, because while the last stream started and I was starting to get a little hungry, wanted to go do some stuff. I ran into a couple of friends, a couple of industry friends. We grabbed a couple of drinks, and we actually went back to their hotel room to spend about 3 hours just talking, and not like super deep contract talk or my next licensed property or anything like that. It was just nice to catch up and talk about the state of the universe, state of the industry, state of our projects. What are you working on? Holy crap! How's that going? It was just really nice. It's one of the things that I miss from conventions. Through COVID, conventions were, when they became all digital, digital conventions for a long time. Yes, you get to do a bunch of cool stuff and it's fun, but it is not the same as sitting around and pouring drinks and having drinks and maybe playing cards and whatever with your friends at a show when you've been working all day and you come back and There's nothing like it, and I missed it a great deal, and it was really, really nice. I got to reconnect with my friend Sarah. I got to reconnect. I got to turn a tangential social connection, a tangential relationship with a guy named Rob, into like an actual friendship. Like he only lives a couple hours away. I'm probably going to drive up to see him. Um, it was just good. It was really good. And then the following day, I was supposed to have yet another D&D stream, another D&D streaming event that Sunday morning. But because of some overlapping and some scheduling issues, it was canceled. So instead, I spent some time talking to a local store owner, about products and things, and then I went and did a quick sweep of the dealer's hall to buy anything that may have jumped out, or that partially jumped out at me earlier in the show. And I grabbed my stuff and I hopped in the car and went home. Long drive home, but I made it. And on the way, I really had a lot of time to think, and a lot of time to kind of mull over just how cool Gamehole Con was. Not just this year, but also the year before, and I'm assuming years before that. Um, so I think what I guess I'm trying to say is I had a blast. I had an amazing time. You'll be able to see me on the Six Sides of Gaming Twitch streams. Um, if you go and check those out, follow the link in the description. Um, if you ever have the ability to come to a Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin, I don't know what next year's dates are, but it'll likely be roughly about now. Um, if you get an opportunity to go, you absolutely should. It is a great show that's really designed for people who want to play and enjoy games. I know that sounds stupid, but there are certain shows that are way more financially bent, that are way more commercial in trying to sell stuff, things like that. This show is not like that. Yes, there are people that are trying to sell stuff and make money, but that's not their like the convention's goal. The convention's goal is to get people here, talk about and play games, enjoy yourselves, and leave happy. And you all know that's what I say is that's one of my mottos is try to leave every room you enter a little bit happier than when you got there. And this show really does sort of embody that. It was fantastic. And like I said, if you get a chance to do so, please check it out. You give them a thumbs up on Twitter. Tell them, hey, everybody says your show's great, and then next year when the show comes around, buy yourself a ticket and show up. Heck, maybe you might be able to play with me at something. That would be pretty rad, right? I would think so. But that's pretty much it. That was my Gamehole Con review. Let you know how everything went. I hope it was entertaining. I hope that it wasn't just a stream of consciousness like it sometimes is. Next week will be the first November episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd, and not only will we be revealing the extra special October comment raffle winner, but it is going to be a very special episode for me personally because I'm going to be covering a very near and dear topic to my heart. So I hope you'll stick around. I hope you'll like, subscribe, slam the little dinger button, the little bell, so you know when stuff comes out, and stay safe. Get vaccinated. Wear a mask when you need to, and play some games. See you in a week.